Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draft the basic bodice block using the bust dart method. So all you need are your pattern paper, your marker, your paper scissors, your paper tape measure, and some rulers. If you've not watched the video that I posted on how to take accurate body measurement, please kindly check the video before this one, okay? So guys, let's get right into the video. As you can see, I have cut out a piece of my pattern paper to draft my front bodice first. What I'm going to do next is that I'm going to mark 1 inch downwards from the edge of the paper there. So this mark is going to serve as the basis for all of our measurements. So I'm just going to be marking 1 inch all over the area, and then I'm going to connect the lines together. So next, I'm just writing down all the measurements that I'll be using for this tutorial. My shoulder measurement is 16. I'll divide that by 2 and I'm going to have 8. All my measurements are in inches. So I'm also working with a bust measurement of 38, a waist measurement of 32. Then my front half length is 17, while that of the back is 16. So the difference between the front half length and the back half length is 1 inch. Also, my bust point, that is shoulder to where my bust is 11, and my bust span is 7.5 inches. Next, I'm going to go to the edge of the paper right there, and I'm also going to insert half of my shoulder measurement, that is 8 inches. After doing that, I'm going to mark 1 inch below that point right there, and this is going to serve as our shoulder slant. Remember that the human shoulder is not straight, okay? So after doing that, I'm going to impute my armhole measurement from that point. So to get your armhole measurement, all you have to do is to divide your bust circumference by 6, then add 1.5 inches to that. For me, when I divide 38 by 6, I get 7.8. I'm just going to round that up to 8 inches. So I'm going to go back to that 1 inch mark and mark 8 inches downwards for my armhole. So after doing that, I'm just going to go to the start point and measure what I have there all the way down to my armhole mark. I have 9 inches. So I'm going to go to my center front, okay, and mark down 9 inches there too. I'm doing this so as to get my chest line. So I'm marking 9 inches all around, and then I'm going to connect the lines together. So next, I'm also going to be imputing my shoulder measurement on my chest line. This is because I want to get a straight line for my armhole. So 8 inches is my shoulder measurement. So next, I'm going to connect from that point down to my armhole point, okay? So this will become the armhole line. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to find the midpoint of the armhole line, which will be 4 inches, of course. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Then to get the armhole curve, we are going to go inwards from the middle of the armhole by 0.75 inch. This is because the front armhole is usually more curvier than that of the back. So I've marked it right there. Next, I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to the center front of my paper and mark down my front half length measurement, which is 17 inches. So from the starting point, I've marked down 17 inches. I'm just going to do that across that area. After doing that, I'm going to connect the lines together like this. And that point becomes my waistline, and also this point becomes my chest line. Next, I'm going to impute my bust point measurement, that is from the shoulder to where my bust is 11 inches. I'm going to just mark that across. After marking it across, I'm just going to connect the lines together like this. So that area is my bust point. I'm just going to extend the line at my chest line area. Okay, so at the waistline, we need to impute a dart there. So we are going to be working with the bust span measurement of 7.5. Dividing that by 2, I have 3.75. Then I'm going to add half an inch seam allowance to that. That will make it 4.2. So I'm just going to mark 4.2 also at my bust point area and also below that area too, so as to get a straight line for the dart. So guys, our dart is going to stop 1 inch below the bust point area. So as you can see, I have marked that right there. And also we need to divide our dart allowance of 1 inch into 2. So I'm going to have half an inch on both sides. So I'll be marking half inch on both sides of the dart leg there. After marking that, I'm going to connect it to the 1 inch mark below my bust point. After doing that, guys, what we are going to do next is to impute a quarter of the bust measurement at the chest line. That is 38 divided by 4. I get 9.5. So I'm going to go to my chest line and put that right there. 9.5, okay. Next, we are also going to divide the waist circumference measurement by 4. That is 8 inches, okay. Now remember, we have a dart intake there, or dart allowance of 1 inch. So we are going to add that 1 inch to our waist measurement divided by 4. That makes it a total of 9 inches, okay. Please always remember to add your dart allowance back to your measurement so you're not short of measurement. So I have connected from my chest line to my waistline. So after doing that, I'm just going to extend my bust point line all the way to that line that I just created, okay. After doing that, guys, the next thing we're going to do is to create the armhole curve. So I'm just going to mark 1.5 inches above my chest line, like that. And next, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to make a connection from the start of my armhole line, like this, the start of my armhole line to the midpoint, to the 1.5 inch mark, and then to the chest line. So using my armhole curve, you can see how the connection is so easy. But if you don't have the armhole curve or a curve ruler, just go ahead and improvise with whatever you have, okay. So next, I'm just going to impute my neck width measurement of 3 and a neck depth measurement of 3. These are just standard measurements, okay. So I'm just going ahead to mark the 3 inches for my neck width and also 3 inches for my neck depth. So after putting down these measurements, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect the lines together like this. So after doing that, we are going to connect the neck width to the shoulder slant line in a straight line, okay. Now that we are done, we are just going to add half inch seam allowance to the neck shoulder slant area, to the waistline, and 1 inch side seam allowance, okay. So guys, I'm just going ahead to add the half inch seam allowance to my waistline area like so. And once I'm done, I'm going to connect those lines together. Next, I'm also doing the same thing at my shoulder slant area, adding half inch and also connecting the lines together. So I'm also going to be adding 1 inch side seam allowance, okay. I like to add just 1 inch because seriously, I don't know what I will be doing with more than 1 inch side seam allowance. So if 2 inches works for you, go ahead and do just that. So after doing that, we are now going to impute the difference between our half length for the front and the back at the bust point area. So the difference for mine is 1 inch. Whatever yours is, please go ahead and use it. So I'm going to mark 1 inch, which is the difference between my front and back half length. Okay, I'm marking 1 inch downwards. Also, I'll be marking 1 inch away from my bust points mark. Okay, the point where the dart line is, and then I'm going to connect the lines. Next, I'm going to divide the bust darts, okay, of 1 inch into 2. That will be half inch on both sides, and then I'm going to reconnect the lines together like this. So After reconnecting the lines, what we are going to do next is that we are going to make an extension of 1/2 inch, okay? This is so that when we close the bust dart, we are not short of our measurement. So I've made the extension. I'm going to reconnect the line or blend the lines back into the chest line and back into the line that leads to the waistline. Okay, so I'm also going to extend the line of my bust dart to the extension mark. So now that we are done, we are just going to cut through the waistline, the side seam, the armhole, neckline, and the shoulder slant. Okay, so if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so that you get notified whenever I post new videos, share my videos, and also if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. I'll be glad to respond to your questions, okay? So guys, once we are done cutting out the front bodice block, we are now going to move on to drafting the back bodice block. So to begin with the back, as usual, I have cut out the required pattern paper that I need. What I did was to also come down by 1 inch from the edge of the paper. So now I'm going to go to my shoulder line, that is the base point line, and mark my zipper allowance of 1 inch. Remember, this is the back, so we need to add a zipper allowance. So I'm also going to mark half of my shoulder measurement right there on the line of 8 inches. Then I'm also going to come down from that point by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, just like we did for the front. Coming down, I'm also going to impute my armhole measurement of 8 inches right there. So I'm also going to measure what I have from my base point line down to my armhole. What I have there is 9 inches, so I'm going to go to my center back and mark 9 inches and also mark it across. When I'm done, I'm also going to connect the lines together with my ruler. Now that I'm done, I'm going to mark out my zipper allowance of 1 inch right there on the chest line. I'm also going to do that right there, also doing the same thing at this point, and then I'm also going to connect the lines together. Okay, so now I'm going to impute my back half length measurement of 16 inches. Okay, measuring from my base point downwards 16 inches. Then I'm connecting the lines together right here, extending my zipper allowance line. I'm also going to write out the zipper allowance at this point so that we don't get confused as to where our measurements are going to start from. After doing that, I'm going to impute my shoulder measurement right there at my chest line. So my shoulder measurement is 8 inches. I'm also going to mark that upwards. I want to get a straight line for my armhole curve, so I'm doing that right there, connecting the lines together. So we're also going to find the midpoint of the armhole line. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Right there, I'm going to also go inwards from the middle of the armhole by ½ inch. This is because the back armhole is less curvier than that of the front. So after doing that, at the waistline, I'm marking 1/4 of my waist measurement, which is 8 inches. And then I'm also adding 1 inch for my dart allowance right there. So I'm just extending my waistline and that of my chest line too. So to impute the dart at the waistline, remember my bust span measurement is 7.5. When I divide that by 2, I have 3.75 plus ½ inch seam allowance 4.2. So I'm just marking that right there. So our dart is going to stop 1 inch below our chest line. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch below the chest line, and then I'm going to mark out my bust span measurement right there. Then I'm going to connect the lines in a straight line. Remember, our dart intake is 1 inch. So dividing the dart allowance by 2, we have ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg. So I'm just going to connect the lines together like that. So now I'm imputing 1/4 of my bust circumference, which is 9.5 on the chest line. So now I'm connecting from the chest line to the waistline. Next, to create the armhole curve for the back, we are also going to go upwards from the chest line by 1.5 inch, just like we did for the front. Then using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect the points together. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so at this point. So what we are going to do next is to impute our neck width of 3 inches, just like the front, and the neck depth for the back is 1 inch. That's a standard measurement for a basic bodice. So I'm going to use the curved path of my ruler to connect the lines together like this. Make sure that while connecting, you extend it to your zipper allowance line area, okay? So after doing that, we are going to connect from the neck width to the shoulder slant right there. So guys, like the front, we are going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance to the waistline. We are also going to add 1/2 inch to the shoulder slant and 1 inch side seam allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that all around. Make sure to always add your seam allowances so that you're not short of measurements, okay? So guys, we are done with the back. So I'm just going to bring my paper scissors and cut out the pattern. Please make sure you don't use the scissors you use in cutting your fabric. Make sure you don't use it on your pattern, okay? If not, if you do so, your scissors is going to get blunt, and trust me, you don't want that. So I'm just going to cut my pattern piece all out, okay? So now that I'm done cutting out the back pattern, I'm going to bring back the front bodice block, okay? So if I place the back pattern on the front, you notice that at the side seam that the front is bigger than the back by 1 inch, which of course is the difference between my front half length and my back half length. So in order to make them both match up by the side, we need to close the bust dart, okay? So as you can see, I just picked up one dart leg like that, smoothing it out, and I'm going to place it over the second dart leg like that. So guys, because of the extension we made at that point, you can see that we are not short of our measurements. So in order to keep this bust dart closed and in position, I'm just going to bring my paper tape. I'm going to cut out a piece of my paper tape and I'm going to place it over the bust dart. This will help keep the bust dart closed and also in position. Then I'm also going to make the line at that point straight. Since we closed the bust dart, it kind of shifted the line there, so we need it to be straight. After doing that, I'm going to trim off the excess there. We don't need it. Now that the bust dart is closed, I'm going to still place the back bodice on the front bodice, okay? So as you can see, they are both equal at the side seams, so you don't need to worry about your side seams matching up with each other. So I'm still going to flip them this way, place them side by side so that we can be sure that they both match up. So guys, having done all of this brings the video to an end. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.